Today, of course, is the first of what is expected to be a lot of hearings for the U.S. House's impeachment inquiry. Love to hear your thoughts. 217-629-7970. Have you been tracking this? Have you been following this? If you listen to corporate mainstream media, it's likely you're not even hearing about this, which is remarkable. Love to hear your thoughts. 217-629-7970. We've got time to take your calls here, but also in the next segment as well. Let's talk about it. This impeachment inquiry. And you got some pretty wild stories ranging from Hunter Biden's laptop to the suspicious activity reports of financial transactions, to even this week it being revealed that some Chinese foreign nationals wired $260,000 in two different wires to Hunter Biden, but they used Joe Biden's home address as the home address for who is receiving the funds, despite Hunter Biden having previously said he was living on the West Coast, not in Delaware. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is this a nothing burger, as maybe some Democrats may say, or is there some fire where a lot of smoke is pouring out of? 217-629-7970, 217-629-7970. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as well as to the lack of reporting and the lack of curiosity on this from the corporate mainstream media. Now, Fox News obviously has been reporting on this for years. I mean, you had even like the New York Post releasing news about Hunter Biden's laptop way back in October of 2020, before the November 2020 election. But then you had 50 former and current intelligence operators coming out in a letter that they signed saying, oh, that's just Russia disinformation. That gave then candidate Joe Biden the ability to say, oh, it's just Russian disinformation. But then you find out that that was concocted, and even some people saying it's borderline election interference. So what do you think? Is this a nothing burger? Are Republicans actually going to convince the political rivals, Democrats, that there's grounds for an impeachment? This is not an impeachment. This is just an impeachment inquiry, but it could lead to an impeachment vote sometime down the line. 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Hey, good morning, Greg. There's this revolving door in politics, like Stephanopoulos. He was the chief of staff of, I believe, Clinton.
Yep.
Now he's on ABC News.
Yep.
And there tends to be always a senior official, and their wife or husband is attached to the news media. They always claim that they're unbiased, but they used every single resource to go after the Steele dossier to try to uncover any evidence that Trump colluded with Russia. But they've been silent whenever it comes to any wrongdoing in the Democratic Party. I find that stunning, and it shows that there's an agenda, whether it's, as you stated, the 51 intelligence officials, knowing that this has been verified since early, 2018, 2019, maybe 2017. There's an agenda. It's to silence Trump. It's to give positive coverage to Democrat causes. I think a lot of people realize this now. It's not unbiased coverage. It's not Walter Cronkite. There's always an opinion piece behind it. It's not real news coverage.
Well, and I just want to touch again on the revolving door you highlight. It's not just, Stephanopoulos years ago going from the Clinton office to, the news media. Jen Psaki, Biden's former, White House press secretary. She's got now a cushy job with corporate media. You've got also, former intelligence officials like John Brennan and James Clapper now embedded in the media, when isn't the CIA supposed to not be influencing American politics? But it seems that has been the case, at least for the past several years, and pretty blatantly for the past several years. So that revolving door is not just, people who were public facing within the administration. It's also those who've been behind the scenes crafting intelligence policies as well, let alone former generals going and, being essentially spokespeople for the military-industrial complex plastered all over corporate media.
To highlight how dangerous this is when you have a uniparty, they're using the power of the government to silence First Amendment and other constitutional protected activity. They're trying to have a chilling effect on people's ability to either protest or address grievances with their elected officials. They're flipping the entire normal script of what it meant for civil servants and civil activity, and they're trying to criminalize political activity. It's a dangerous precedent what they tend to be doing with Facebook and other things, especially during the 2020 election. That's the government, that's uniparty people that are now on MSNBC that silenced what was correct information either about COVID or election issues. It's dangerous. We appreciate what you do at WMAY, trying to keep a balanced approach. Thank you, Greg.
Appreciate the call. And I want to get more of your calls at 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. Impeachment inquiry hearing starting today. Why isn't that top of news with ABC here? Fascinating question. Let's get to another call real quick before the break. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
2 points real quick. So back in the Obama administration, they overturned a law that allows the U.S. federal government to make propaganda against the United States people. Prior to that, it was illegal to use propaganda internally in the country. And a second point, all these news agencies are for-profit companies. So at one point, they have to make a profit to somebody, and that profit means there's an agenda somewhere. Thank you.
I appreciate the call, and I think you're referring to it was part of one of those bills, the National Defense Authorization Act from the Obama era. If you go and look in the archives, you can see, maybe not as strongly worded as that listener put it, but you'll be able to see that there is some truth to what he laid out there. It is Springfield's Morning News. We'll get to more of your calls coming up here on WMAY. Getting your calls about the beginning of the impeachment inquiry today. The U.S. House Oversight Committee, with Republicans at the helm, taking charge and investigating what Joe Biden knew about his son's overseas business dealings, and did Joe Biden benefit from that? Was it a pay-to-play shakedown scheme? So we'll obviously be hearing a lot more about that, and you can chime in at 217-629-7970. And one question I have is, where's the corporate mainstream media on this? Listener says via text, the mainstream media are no longer journalists. They are Democrats whose only job is to protect the party, attack opponents, and gaslight the public. Your sentiments, I'd love to hear them at 217-629-7970. But I do want to hear a little bit of what Jason Smith, Republican from Missouri, standing alongside U.S. Representative Darren LaHood and others during a news conference yesterday, where they laid out the evidence that they say they're going to be presenting. But you've all got question back on whether or not Republicans are going to be able to prove that there was impropriety here.
Mr. Chairman, question just about the timing of all of this. You're talking about a two-tiered system of justice. If I'm not mistaken, August 7th, 2020, Bill Barr was the Attorney General and Donald Trump was the president. So explain to me where the two-tiered system of justice comes into play. And then the WhatsApp message you have, I believe, is dated June 6, 2017. Joe Biden is not vice president or even a candidate for president at that time. So where is the direct connection to some sort of criminal malfeasance within these two pieces of evidence?
Well, I think the facts speak for themselves. There's over 700 pages of examples of where people should be very concerned. When you're talking about what was your first question? The
timing of this is August 7th, 2020. Bill Barr is the Attorney General. Donald Trump's the president.
Yeah, and Leslie Wolf is a career employee. She was not a political appointee, and she was the one obstructing the investigation. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. We need to make sure that the Department of Justice works for all people and doesn't treat those who are politically connected or wealthy much differently. And unfortunately, we have several examples that came forward by the two IRS whistleblowers that proves that people are treated differently because they're politically connected.
But haven't you suggested that Joe Biden being the president now is unfairly treating Donald Trump in his indictments?
What I'm talking about is the 700 pages that we have before us, which is all the information that came from the IRS whistleblowers, and that's what we're releasing right now. And I'll tell you, I would encourage everyone in this room to look at those 700 pages. If you think it's okay with what's in it, then we live on two different planets.
Can you explain the timing then of the August 6th WhatsApp message? Why is that evidence of some wrongdoing?
I'm not an expert on the timeline. I would love to have President Biden and his family to tell us about all the timelines, because it's really, really unfortunate that we see so many meetings and so many phone calls that involved around official activity that the vice president has been participating in, and then big sums of money follows later.
But if he's not the president or the vice president at that time, where's the wrongdoing? He wasn't even a candidate for president at that time.
He was a candidate.
In August 6th of 2017?
Apparently, what source are you with?
I'm with NBC.
So apparently you'll never believe us.
I'm not saying I don't believe you. I'm asking you a very direct question. You presented a piece of evidence that you say came on August 6, 2017, that demonstrates that Joe Biden was using political influence to help his son. If he wasn't a political figure at that time, the first WhatsApp message you put up, where you talk about the brand, and I'm completely open-minded about this. I'm asking you specifically, how does that demonstrate that there's some sort of political influence being put over him if at that time he's not an elected official?
I'm definitely not going to pinpoint one item. I think we've outlined.
You presented it. It was your first thing that you brought up.
So apparently you don't agree with it. So
it's not that I don't agree with it. I'm asking you to explain.
So again, you can hear the combative nature of how the media are approaching this and wanting to, during a news conference, pick apart each aspect and try to poke holes in what the Republicans are presenting, and that's important. They should be doing that. But do they do that on the other side? Do they do that to the Democrats from the White House or from the Senate or from elsewhere? So interesting display there, at least the Q&A. How's this going to play out with the House Oversight Committee in their impeachment inquiry starting today? Let's get your thoughts at 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
It's as simple as this. Even if Joe Biden wasn't a candidate or wasn't running for office right then and there, he still had a political campaign pot of money that he could give to candidates to influence politics. I mean, it's simple as that. I mean, it's like you don't have to be directly related to running for office or be in office to affect politics. I mean, we're seeing that with Madigan and the ComEd cases and stuff like that. There's still bribery and paid to play and stuff that is wrongdoing that all involves politics. And to say that Joe Biden, a career politician, wasn't connected in any kind of way just because he wasn't running for office or in office at the time. And then I love how they pick a very specific time that they don't think fits a narrative, and they push that and they completely ignore probably 698 other pages.
Right.
So it's insane to me. It's reporting malfeasance, and it's time for this nonsense to stop. And I couldn't imagine what will come out if we weren't giving money to Ukraine right now and they didn't need our war fund, and I couldn't imagine what would come out if we had a DOJ that would actually release all the evidence they have.
Well, it's pretty incredible stuff. Appreciate the call. Let's get to another one at 217-629-7970. Good morning.
Good morning. I didn't hear anything really bad at all on that. He basically asked him specifically a question, like most of them on both sides. Doesn't really matter who it is. They never answer the question, and the guy stayed on him. And the guy had no answer for what was actually being asked of him other than what he was supposed to be told to go out there and say. And he just kept referring, well, go back to the 700. You haven't even your own party members are saying that you don't have any evidence. And I'm all for getting any crook. I'm glad they're going after Menendez. If you break the law, you should go. And I don't care if it's, well, they don't do it to the other side. Does it make it okay then that they can break it because you don't do the other side? If the guy's guilty, go after him. I hope he's not, but if Biden's guilty, he should go to jail.
Well, I appreciate the call, but some of the other evidence that questioner just seemed to gloss over instead of trying to look at just a small time frame when Biden wasn't in office. They apparently just want to dismiss all the other stuff that there was, including yesterday, this bombshell being released as well, a letter from Burisma with Hunter Biden on the board, essentially a memo to Ukrainian prosecutors who replaced Viktor Shokin, who was, the prosecutor that Biden wanted to get rid of, or else they're not getting the $1 billion from the United States. They told prosecutors post-Shokin, warning them not to continue their further investigations. So that's another huge story that came out, and that kind of highlights the motivations of a pay-to-play type of scheme. We'll obviously be watching what happens, and we may have to talk about this tomorrow as well. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on W.